Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your Newcastle versus Manchester United preview. It's a massive game. We're going to get straight into what my predicted 11 should be and why he needs to drop players that maybe haven't even been that bad. We'll talk about that very soon, but also I want to talk about what I was on about this morning about the tactical change that Ten Hag adapted against Galatasaray, which he used at the start of the season, which he cannot use for the next few games. So he's got to make a tactical change. He has to change the way we play. We'll talk about that as well. Lots to get into on the show. Should ONANA be dropped? Well, look, let's go straight to, this is not my predicted lineup. This is the lineup I think he has to go with. We've been playing this survival football for so long. Get your comments in below. What would your team be? I mean, midfield 3, would you change the goalkeeper? Give us your 11s, and why? But I don't think he's about to do this. But if he doesn't do this, I think things are going to go wrong. You look at United over the last few weeks, we've won 5 from our last 6. Can somebody just put that in the bin? Like, we all know what it is. We spoke about it this morning. We've conceded 10 shots in the box for the last 2 games against Everton and Galatasaray. Let's not pretend we're winning games well because we're defending well. We're not. You could almost say we're getting away with it. And we're about to play very good teams. It's one thing beating the Brentfords and the Lutons and the Sheffield Uniteds and the Burnleys. We're about to be playing the Newcastles, the Chelseas, the Bayern Munichs, the Liverpools, the West Hams, the Aston Villas. We won't get away with it. They've got better finishers in those teams. So look, I look at that 11 and I'm quite confident of a result. He's got to stop being stubborn and put his best players on the pitch. I don't care what the relationships are. I don't care whether there's been a fallout. You're the Manchester United manager. You're not managing Ajax. You're managing Manchester United, and you're not operating in a league where you can drop 2 or 3 of your best players and still win because you're Ajax. You're operating in a league where we've not been the best team in here for a decade. And if you drop good players, we will get beat. So whether there's a stubborn ego thing going on or not, you won't win. You will lose your job. Mourinho lost his job. Ollie lost his job. The players will win. So use the players for your own benefits and pick your best team. This survival football of picking, the people that you can rely on them because they're not ambitious. They're not good enough. These people you rely on, they won't leave. They've been here for years. They've played for multiple managers. They're reliable because they don't want to bloody leave because they've got the slippers on. They're too comfortable. Pick your best players. That is the only way to beat the best teams. Newcastle are top of the league for home form this season. They've got 18 points, the same as Aston Villa and Liverpool, and they've scored 18 goals in 7 games. So they're averaging 2.5 goals per home game. They don't concede many. This is a loss. This has got a loss written all over it. If you win, it's incredible. So don't take the survival team that you've been picking against bloody Everton. Pick a team that can actually go there and compete. Put your best players on the pitch. The goalkeeper is up for grabs. Who would you pick? Get in the comments. ONANA, Bienda. I'd probably go Bienda, but he will go ONANA. The back 4 is where this game is won and lost for me. If you go with the Lindelof, Maguire, Luke Shaw at left back, Wan-Bissaka, we'll concede chances and we'll get beat. Go for a strong back 4. Luke Shaw left centre back, Varane right centre back. They're our best centre-back pairing, proven, apart from Martinez and Varane. Last season, they played next to each other for 2 months, at the end of the season and in January, and they were immaculate. This is our best centre-back partnership that is available. And it also allows you to play out from the back, because Luke Shaw can do it and Varane can do it. And they'll also, those 2 centre-backs will let the full-backs go forward, because they've got recovery pace as well. This is what I'm talking about. Let's play a higher line. Let's press Newcastle higher up the pitch. And to do that, you've got to get your defensive line up the pitch. You can do that with Shaw and Varane, Wan-Bissaka at right back, Reguilon at left back. Into the midfield, another weak area for Manchester United. Out goes McTominay because it's like playing with 10 men unless he scores. Mainu, holding midfielder. With Varane and Shaw near him, he's got the experience, he's got the confidence with him to do that job with 2 very good centre-backs. Amrabat there to support him. We're going to have to defend. We're going to have to be mobile. He can do that job. And of course, Bruno in midfield. That's my midfield 3. Front 3, Højlund through the middle. Martial's been doing well, but let's start with Højlund and the energy and the physicality. Garnacho off the left has to play. And then toss a coin. I'd go Rashford. Anthony played well in midweek, but he's only just coming back from an injury. Rashford's fresher. And I think that 11, I'm not saying it's going to go and win, But I look at that 11 and I'm a lot more excited, confident and happy than if McTominay's in the midfield and Maguire and Lindelof are at centre-back. This is what I mean. When I said it this morning, get your best players on the pitch, and people are in the chat going, what best players? But it's about moving players into different positions and using players that aren't being utilised properly. And that team, to me, is capable of, if it plays well, of mixing it up. That's the team that could go to Anfield if it grows over the next few weeks and actually have a go. I'm not saying we'd win at Anfield, but that's a team that could actually have a go. And we've got nobody coming back for that game. No Casemiro, no Martinez. We've got to start building for these tough games. We've got to start thinking about Bayern Munich. We're not going to beat Bayern Munich with Maguire and Lindelof and McTominay in the team. They're not bad players. Keep them on the bench. We might get injuries, but put your best team on the pitch. We all know Shaw and Varane is our best centre-back pairing if Martinez isn't there. Put it on the bloody pitch. Put it on the pitch. Put Reguilon at left-back. Get your defence sorted. Give yourself a platform like last season to build upon. Simple as that. Midfield, games are won and lost in there. Newcastle are very good in there. Mainu, I've got confidence with. Amrabat gives you more mobility and more tackling. McTominay doesn't do that anymore for some reason. And Bruno is Bruno. I think this is the team to go with. Do I think we'll see this team? I'll be stunned. I'll be absolutely stunned. But the fact that it's there and it can be picked disappoints me that he wouldn't even consider doing it. I don't know what's gone wrong from last season to this season, because last season he'd be picking this team. Obviously, Mainu wasn't ready and Reguilon wasn't here, neither was Højlund. But if he had them, he'd pick them. He'd use this team. This is the team to go with. Now, do I think it's good enough to beat Newcastle? Look, score predictions-wise, as I said, everything suggests Newcastle win this game. They're fantastic at St James's Park. We saw that against Chelsea last week. We saw it against us last season. They're fantastic at St James's Park. Never write Newcastle off at St James's Park. Also, as I said before, their home record is fantastic. 7 games at home, 6 wins, 1 loss, which was Liverpool, which was weird. That was the weird game where Liverpool went down to 10 men and Newcastle got caught on the counter twice. They're immaculate at home. They score a lot of goals. They've only conceded 4 in 7, so they don't concede many goals either. Statistically, this is terrible for Manchester United, and any logical person goes with a Newcastle win anyway. Even if you put that team out, you go with a Newcastle win. You have to. But Manchester United away from home this season, 6 games, 4 wins, 2 losses. 8 goals scored, 6 conceded. So we're averaging a goal a game conceded, and Newcastle are averaging 2.5 scored. So you're probably going to lose 3-1 if you go with the stats. 2-1, 3-1. That's the score to go with. However, Manchester United, we're capable of scoring goals. We've seen that in the last couple of games. We've scored 3 in both games. So we can score goals. That's not a problem at the moment. I am worried. The away form is a bit mythical. We have won 4 of our 6 away games, but look at the teams we've beaten. Fulham, Burnley, Sheffield United, all scrappy. And then Everton last week looked convincing, but we all know Everton should have scored some goals. So we've not been convincing away, but we're doing okay on the stats. December was always going to be a big month when you've got to go to likes of Anfield, West Ham, Newcastle in the league, away from home. There's a part of me that thinks we'll do this because everyone thinks we'll lose this. But I do think it's about picking this team. If he goes with the team against Everton, which as we know would be Maguire and Lindelof, Luke Shaw at left back, McTominay in the midfield, I can only see a loss. If he puts this team out, I can see us getting a result. Because when you think about Newcastle and you think about the team that they have, okay, Pope's a good goalkeeper. Their back 4 is well organised. Their midfield worries me. You know, Bruno Guimaraes, Joel Linton. They might play Miley. They might play somebody else, but they are combative in that midfield. And their front 3 of Almiron and Gordon and Isaac are very fluid. But man for man, that's a better team. Manchester United's a better team. But Newcastle are a better team. We saw it in the Carabao Cup. They put their reserves out and they just played us off the park for energy, chemistry. So look, Newcastle will be favourites. But at some point, Newcastle won't win at home. And at some point, Man United will get a good result away from home where we go, that's fantastic. So it has to be Saturday, really, because I think the way I look at it is that if you look at the league table, and I did want to bring this in because I think it's really important, but if you look at the league table at the moment and how it would look if we lost this game and how it would look if we win this game, Manchester United 6th in the league at the moment, Newcastle a point behind us in 7th. If they win that game, that drops us to 7th at least. We're 2 points off Newcastle, and we've got more difficult games to come, as we know. And there is a hunting pack behind us with Brighton there, and Chelsea will be looking to move in on us, even though we're 8 points ahead of them. But I'm more looking at 4th place. I'm more looking at the fact we are 4 points off 4th at the moment, and we don't want to get that gap any bigger. We've seen this week with the Champions League how fragile our place in that is going to be. And we could be down into the Conference League or even out of Europe altogether, which some people think is a good thing. I think it's a bloody bad thing. I think it's a terrible thing. I think we're in big trouble if we drop out of it financially. But it would put more pressure on getting that top 4. And if we want to get top 4, let's be blunt, we're playing competitive games. That draw with Galatasaray is a shambles. Newcastle, we've got to find a way not to lose this game. And we don't talk about the draw because we haven't drawn in the league this year, but we will draw at some point. And I know we don't want to predict a draw, but if the game, would you take a draw now? No, I wouldn't. Maybe some of you would. I wouldn't. I don't think that's... I still think it's possible we could win, even though I wouldn't give it a high percentage chance. I still think we could win, so I wouldn't take a draw. But if we did draw the game, it might not be the end of the world. And the reason I say that is because we've just got to avoid defeat. We've got to try and win, but we've got to avoid defeat because this is against the team that's going to be going for that 4th place. And I think we are at the point now where we've got to get that mentality in our head. We've got to get Champions League football next year. Financially, it's a must, but also if we want to recruit well, which also picks in with financially, but also development, we've got to be in this new Champions League tournament next season. And if we're going to be in it, the best way is to finish in the top 4. And if we're going to be in the top 4, we can't afford to let that gap get any bigger. But also, we can't afford to be giving points to people who are competing for it. So we've got to get our head straight. We've got to get something out of this game. And I think it's just got to get the best players on the pitch. That's what it is. One thing we haven't mentioned is the tactical side, which I'll talk in a moment. But also, I think one thing we have to say is that will be a very draining game for Manchester United against Galatasaray. Mentally, it won't just impact ONANA, it will impact the whole team. They'll be like, one, how we didn't win it, the disappointment of not winning it, the fact that, we might not be in the Champions League, the fact that it was embarrassing, all those things will mentally drain the players. Physically, it will have been demanding as well. It wasn't great conditions. It would have been a heavy pitch. Obviously, it was very waterlogged. And on top of that, Newcastle have 24 hours on us because they played on Tuesday and we played on Wednesday. And on top of that, it's a bigger journey from, they were playing in Paris, we were playing in Turkey, and also Newcastle, the home team. So they're going to have a lot more energy than us. That's going to be a problem. So I think that's another reason to make some changes. I mean, the great thing about if you make that change is that Rashford's fresh. Amrabat only played 57 minutes. Mainu only played half an hour. Varane didn't play at all. Reguilon didn't play at all. Hoyland came off after an hour. So you refresh that team a lot. Whereas if you go with McTominay, over 90 minutes. Maguire, 90 minutes. Lindelof, 90 minutes. So, I mean, that's the better team anyway, but it also refreshes the team. So I'm absolutely convinced that that's the team to pick for many reasons, but also it makes sense on freshness as well, which is what we're going to need because Newcastle have the advantage. What Ten Hag has to be very, very careful about in this game, and I don't know whether you picked it up, but I certainly did. Watching the Galatasaray game yesterday, they played with basically a front 5, front 6 and a back 4. And if you bypassed the press, you got at the back 4, which is what we did on the first 2 goals. And we couldn't figure out how to do it again, really, and kept hitting long balls. But we also did it as well. When Galatasaray had the ball, we had a lot of players forward. In fact, we had a lot of players forward all the time. McTominay really should have been the 8 back with Amrabat or Mainu, but spent most of his time up front. Bruno was the 10. Hoyland or Martial was the striker, and then you got your forwards as well. So we had this very big distance between the attack and the defence. And it reminded me a lot of certainly the first game of the season, and I think we did it again against Forest, where Casemiro dropped in between the centre-backs, the full-backs, the midfielders just were right up on, almost level with the wingers and the strikers. And we had this weird situation where we had a front seven and a back three, and we were just trying to sort of bypass Wolves, but they were alive to it. And we were trying to do it last night as well. And it really stood out to me that we were doing that again, this trying to bypass the midfield with a lot of players up front instead of passing it on the ground. We can't play like this against Chelsea, and we can't play it against Newcastle. Their midfields are too good, and they're too well organised defensively. So he's got to change the way he plays as well. We can't play the way that we played against Galatasaray. He's going to have to go back to what he did against Everton, which is defend as a unit well and look to counter. I mean, I don't even have a problem with that. That's the way to play against Newcastle. Invite them on and counter on the space with the pace, and someone like Rashford could be really important. I think again, obviously it didn't work against Galatasaray, but you hope it would work against Newcastle. It worked against Everton. You got to score the first goal. It's very important to score the first goal, and you got to get the second goal. And then if you get the second goal with a 2-goal cushion, you should be winning the game. Obviously, we failed twice against Galatasaray with that, and Copenhagen, etc. But it worked against Everton. We've got to score first. I think the one positive I've had, and there's been a few, but the one positive I've had recently with United is we've managed to score the first goal. We all know what happens if we concede first, especially away from home. We've got to score the first goal to have any, even if we want a point, because Newcastle will score. We won't keep a clean sheet at St James's Park. I wouldn't be putting any United defenders or goalkeepers in your FPL. We've got to score first to have any chance of getting something. So, score prediction wise, well, get in the chat. What do you think? I'm going to go with, well, United don't draw. So I either go Newcastle win or Manchester United win. And I'm going to go with he's going to pick this team. And if he picks this team, I can see a 2-1 United. I can see us doing it because everyone's going to bet against us, which in itself can be quite useful because you're written off. And when we get written off, I know we've never won a title in the last 10 years, but Ollie got written off. Mourinho got written off. And we have this weird thing of when we're written off, we tend to get a result. So I'm going to go Man United scrape it by a goal. But the vast majority are going to go with the Newcastle win, and you're absolutely correct. I'm in the minority there. But if he picks this team, I think it's a decent team with some very good players in it. And yeah, I think we might get a result. If he goes with Maguire, Lindelof, McTominay, and the rest, I think it's going to be a very, very difficult to get a result. We're going to need a lot of luck. But if he goes with that team, sod it. I'm going to go with the Manchester United win. Now, what about on from this? We're still wrapped up in a very, well, it's December now, isn't it? We've got a very, 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 very intense December. We said after the Everton game, enjoy it because you'll be on to the next game very quickly and the enjoyment will be gone because you're focusing on the result of the next game, which is the Galatasaray game. Newcastle, if you win that, the mood's up again. We're in this yo-yo situation at the moment, and what we need is consistency. But I don't think we're going to get any consistency. I'd rather we had a yo-yo December, because if you have a yo-yo December, you get some positives and negatives, and you survive, really, don't you? But if we find consistency, I can't see us consistently winning against Newcastle, Chelsea, Bayern Munich, Liverpool, Villa. I can't see us winning all those games. But what I can see is as... I don't know what's wrong with my throat. What I can see is us consistently losing. And if we get into a consistently losing pattern, then I think we're going to be in problems. So, yes, it's all about Newcastle, but also we've got to keep an eye on the fact that it's Chelsea midweek, Bournemouth, Bayern Munich, massive, Liverpool, massive, and then you're into Christmas. And it's going to be really interesting. I suppose what I'm getting at is that there was a comment in the chat this morning about, and some people were mentioning it on the call-in earlier, about how, Ten Hag could be gone by Christmas. Of course he could be gone by Christmas. If he loses against Newcastle, he loses against Chelsea, he doesn't beat Bournemouth, he loses against Bayern, he loses against Liverpool, there's going to be huge pressure on him. There will be. I can't defend that. Nobody can. But I don't think that will happen at all. And also, I just don't think Man United are looking to get rid of a manager. And if they did get rid of a manager, we would be under the care of McLaren and Fletcher until the summer anyway. So I don't think Ten Hag's job is in danger. I certainly don't think it should be. But we all knew December was going to be a challenge, and I think there'll be ups and downs. I think we'll lose. As you can tell by me predicting a win here, I very rarely predict United will lose. I think we're going to lose at Anfield, and I'll predict that now. The only way we go to Anfield, and I've got any confidence, is if he picks teams like this against Newcastle, and it grows over the next 2 weeks. If you're going to go to Newcastle, you've got to go with a team like that, and they've got to have a couple of weeks CV of playing together and doing well. If he goes to Anfield with the team he went to the Goodison Park with, it's going to get absolutely battered. I mean, Maguire and Lindelof are going to really struggle against that Liverpool team. And our midfield is going to struggle against that Liverpool team. And our attack is not going to get a sniff against that Liverpool defence. So he's got to be looking longer term. And I don't know whether Ten Hag does that. We're still learning about Ten Hag. He's not really been through a difficult period. His first season, he lost the first 2 games and then really motored. This season, it's difficult for him, and we don't know how he reacts to being difficult. Does he stay living game to game, surviving? Or does he actually look a little bit long term and go, I can't go to Anfield with this team that's scraping wins against Luton. I've got to build a team that can go there and get something. The Anfield game's dangerous. It is, because you can lose and you can lose. Like, you can lose 2-0 and people will go, we're just not as good as them. It's disappointing. We need to do better. You can lose 7-0 and people go, this is a bloody disgrace. And you can't do it twice. So he's got to look a little bit long term. But I think the way to do it is that team. That's my thoughts. Anyway, get your comments in below. Make sure you smash a like on the video as well. Let me know what your predictions are. It's certainly a massive game. Don't forget as well, you can get your Christmas jumpers delivered worldwide. Link is in the video description. We've got a few designs there for you. We've got a brand new one, as you can see. I'm loving that. Mine's on the order, but I'm wearing the one on the left at the moment right now. Links in the video description for that, and we do ship worldwide. Get them in time for Christmas. Big weekend coming up for Manchester United. We've got the Ten Hag press conference tomorrow, the morning show as well. I'll speak to you all later. Take care and stay safe.